The Philippine Air Force Physiological Training Unit was activated on 05 February 1964 and was placed under the supervision of 42nd Technical Training Squadron. The mission of the Physiological Training Unit is to provide for and conduct physiological training to rated and designated Philippine Air Force personnel and other personnel as may be authorized by higher headquarters. Its specific functions are to operate and maintain high-altitude chamber and other training devices, plans, coordinates, and implement the physiological training program for Philippine Air Force and other authorized personnel, conducts studies and researches to include publication of policies and procedures for the successful accomplishment of the unit's mission. This is the Philippine Air Force Hypobaric Chamber. It is a 16-man cylindrical altitude training type used in a simulated high-altitude flight wherein the human body is exposed to the various effects of high altitude such as low pressure, decreased atmospheric pressure, and low oxygen content of air. The chamber has been in service for 57 years. Physiological training is mandatory to all aircrew flying at 10,000 feet and above. It is used to simulate rapid decompression profiles during rapid ascents from 8,000 feet to 22,000 feet within 10 seconds, as well as to simulate the loss of cabin pressure. This unit programs physiological training twice a year. The original phase of physiological training is a 5-day course comprising academic portion, 2 altitude chamber flights, and water survival training. A refresher course is a 1-day course with academic portion and chamber flight exposure to 35,000 feet, and a rapid decompression flight to 22,000 feet in 1 or 2 second duration. Prior to the start of the chamber flight, this unit makes sure that all personnel who will undergo chamber flight training should have no health issues and be physically fit with the updated annual physical exam. A flight surgeon and a medical team with an ambulance shall be on standby alert in case of a medical emergency. All personnel shall have their vital signs checked. The physiological training officer shall conduct a lecture and briefing discussing the procedures and physiological effects of chamber flight. The oxygen mask and helmet are well fitted. The chamber has a total of 16 seats that can accommodate 14 trainees and 2 inside observers. Before the flight, the crew chief ensures all the equipment needed inside the chamber are working properly and the availability of training aids, while the inside observers supervises all the demonstrations during the entire flight and handling of chamber reactors with the guidance from the physiological training officer and the medical officer. The usual chamber flight profile for chamber flight training is 25,000 feet from ground level. As the flight progresses, the physiological training officer tests trainees' tolerance by conducting ears and sinus check, hypoxia demonstration, and night vision test demonstration. This is where the aerospace physiologist, chamber operator, operates, controls, and manages the chamber flight and communicates with the trainees and tests their physiological tolerance to different flight profile. This is where the recorder positions himself to record the flight profile and physiological symptoms encountered by the trainees during flight. This is the lock chamber panel where the lock operator is positioned, ensuring valves are closed prior to flight. This is the Kidney vacuum pump engine, the most important part of low-pressure chamber assembly. It enables the simulation of low barometric pressure inside the chamber. This is where the oxygen bottles are being kept. Normal oxygen consumption per flight is 3 to 4 bottles. In here is the PE room, where pilot's equipment are being kept and maintained. The crew assists the trainees in helmet and mask fitting prior to the chamber flight. Here, the briefing room, where the physiological training officer conducts lecture and pre-flight and post-flight briefing to trainees, discussing the different physiological effects of altitude and chamber flight profile. For the maintenance, the hypobaric chamber maintenance flight is being conducted twice a month to check the integrity of the equipment and to ensure that all systems are functional and capable to conduct hypobaric chamber flight. This unit ensures all instruments like the altimeters and oxygen regulators are being calibrated on time for accurate reading. As of now, from the activation of the physiological training unit, there were 379 original phases of physiological training conducted to 4,635 personnel and 319 refresher phase to 2,229 flying personnel of the Philippine Air Force. This is the end of the virtual tour. Thank you and mabuhay! This video was made following the minimum safety protocols against COVID-19.